Hello, everybody. I hope everyone is enjoying their weekend so far and that you're treating yourselves with kindness. Today, I want to talk briefly upon my understanding, my thoughts, my views on why we are the way that we are through psychology, sociology, and different theories and styles, and through the support that I've also learnt. It's amazing. It's fascinating how what makes the brain work and why it interprets things the way it does and all this kind of stuff. I find it incredibly fascinating what makes the mind tick. So it's kind of along the same lines of if two people go through a similar situation, but it may have varying degrees of their experiences. They might both go through a similar situation, but have completely different perceptions and experiences of that situation. And that is what I find fascinating. Basically, my understanding is that when you're hurting, when you're healing, rebuilding, struggling, analyzing, ruminating, it's really beneficial to really, if you're able to and willing to, that is, to look inwards, to actually break these cycles and break these patterns that you may or may not be aware that you're doing. So, for example, one thing I've learned recently is the fact that I find this really interesting is the fact that when we're babies, when we're developing, when our minds are sponges and we are absorbing everything around us when we're children and just taking it all in, is that we have a baby brain, a child's brain, and that brain develops into keeping us safe. It analyzes a situation, it interprets a situation, it learns from that situation, and that's what keeps us safe. That's what protects us. Our brain is basically doing a job to protect us. But the problem is that brain is still a child's brain into then an adult's body. It doesn't realize that you have grown. So your brain is still trying to protect you and keep you safe in what it's learned from your past experiences as a child. So it doesn't care if you're happy. It just tries to keep you safe and protect you because that's what it's programmed to do. So that's another reason why people fear the unknown and change so much. It's because your brain goes, hang on a minute, this is unusual, this is something new, I don't like this. I know what's safe, I know what's familiar, I want us to stay there. We know it's safe there. We don't know what this is. And I find that fascinating, the fact that you can kind of essentially reprogram, rewire, and retrain your brain to actually acknowledge the fact that you are an adult now, and the protection that it offered as a child and the guidance and support it gave you whilst you were developing as a child may not serve you now as an adult. The things that protected you as a kid don't have the same effect anymore. They actually can have a negative effect. And this is all about another philosophy, which is all about the inner child, is that everyone has an inner child and you have to nourish, nurture, and listen to your inner child, and which is basically your inner child may be screaming for validation and reassurance because you never had it as a kid. So your brain is desperately seeking reassurance and validation because for whatever reason you were malnourished that as an infant. So this is why you constantly seek it. This is why you constantly seek reassurance and validation, because you haven't learned those techniques. You've never learned to be able to do it. And that's all about your inner child. It's learning and looking inwards to your inner child, understanding and kind of nourishing and quenching your inner child. That's that sort of whole mentality, philosophy, or my understanding of it is, along with kind of attachment styles. If you've got a secure attachment style, if you've been raised in a loving, caring family, in a really sort of comfortable, loving environment, you may, you will find it easy to trust people. You will find it easy to open up to people because that's what an environment you've known. That's what you've come from. If you've come from a very hostile and challenging environment and a real kind of negative environment, that is going to have a massive effect on how you are as a person, as an adult. You may have attachment issues, you may have trust issues, you may find it difficult to connect with people, to reach out to people if you've been forced to look after yourself and actually have sort of quench your own thirst. That is what I find fascinating. So again, it's not conclusive, but it's just going back and actually understanding that. I find it really interesting. So yeah, basically it's a case of actually going back through and understanding and being kind, not blaming, not putting blame on it, but actually going, oh, okay, well, I'm this person because of this happened to me, and that happened to me because this happened to me. So that's when you can start trying to break the cycle and learn from your patterns and past behaviors. So if you struggle to validate yourself because you never had that, that nourishment as a child, you were neglected emotionally as a child, you crave validation and reassurance. But it takes you to go backwards to actually understand that. Some people might not even know that that's what even they need. They might even be subconsciously not even aware of that situation. So that's why you have to do the work, or wanting to, or willing to do the work, or able to do the work. And again, that takes help, support. You don't know what you don't know, and it takes someone to actually kind of push you and nudge you in the direction of going, hang on, well, what was your childhood like? Tell me about your past experiences, because that shapes you and that molds you into the person that you then become. So again, if you struggle because you never had validation and you're never told, that you were loved, that you were supported and encouragement, then you may be constantly seeking that. And then what you learn to do is you develop techniques and tools to give yourself validation and to know your own worth and to appreciate yourself and know that you're a good person. And that's how you get through it. You go, hang on a minute, there's no one who can validate or reassure me. And do I even need that when I'm then at a point to be able to reassure and validate myself? That is massively empowering. And again, so, if you have abandonment issues, you may find it incredibly difficult to trust someone, or, you may compensate for that by over trusting on people. There's all kinds of different, reasons, like saying attachment theories, attachment styles, as to why people are the way they are. Of course, you have your own experiences and you have your own minds as well. But that is so critical and crucial when you are developing as a child, and when you're taking it all in, when your mind is taking it all in and absorbing it. That, like I say, that's what the foundation building blocks of your mind is, and the personality, or your behaviors or patterns that will then take you into adulthood. So to understand them, or to break them rather, you need to understand them. And again, it's not an easy process. This isn't a quick fix, but it's incredibly worth it if you're willing to actually go, okay, I don't want to make the same mistakes. How can I learn from this? And then a lot of that evidence is by going backwards into the past to see how you coped with things before and see if that's a healthy or unhealthy pattern. And that you're hopefully willing to break and grow and learn from. Okay. Thank you. And please let me know in the comments below. Let me know if this is helping, why I'm doing this, because I just want to hopefully to reach people, that it gives some kind of element of support and, advice that you're not alone, no matter what you're going through. People have been there, people have done that, and people sometimes not so much, but sometimes they've been through deeper than anyone can ever realize. Sorry, excuse me. So please let me know in the comments, is there anything else that, what are your thoughts, or what are your views on this? Is there anything else you'd like me to chat about? Is there anything that, people want some more encouragement from? But anyhow, I hope everyone's doing okay, and please take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you later. All right, bye.